it's Day. Welcome back to my channel. We are continuing our series with 5Below art product reviews. And today's I'm really excited about. Today is acrylic markers. So basically like acrylic paint, like paint markers. So this was super exciting. The colors are very basic. Packaging is kind of crappy, but these ones were actually under $5. So for something that typically is usually a couple bucks a piece for a decent one, I was really excited to get these and open these. Packaging was a little whatever, just cardboard and plastic, so it wasn't cool like some of the other products that had their own cases. The markers themselves felt really light and cheap, so they looked kind of cool, but they felt really like light and just like not great. And to get them going and to shake and to feel the liquid inside took so many pumps and so many shakes. So many. I felt like I was trying to get them going the entire time. Once a few of them got going, they're pretty good. So you'll see here I'm going to start swatching them. And they flooded pretty well. Like the black one worked really well. But some of them were just not great. Like as you can see, just pumping and shaking and pumping and shaking and trying to get it to work. So they felt cheap. They were a bit cheap, I guess. So that's what to be expected. Make a little bit of shaky sounds just constantly. So one good thing they did have is I noticed they all had notches in their caps so they didn't spin. But some of the paint wasn't even that good. So all that effort and all that clickety-clackety of the shaking of everything, just, you know, the orange color was super light and watery. Green sort of worked. It was just not, they were not fun. But what do you want for under $5? So we keep going. So I kept shaking and shaking and banging my camera. And by camera, I mean my phone. So once I finally got all the colors swatched as best as I could, some of the colors were really watery and clear. White I knew was going to be a difficult one because it's hard to see white anyway. And it was hard to get the white going, so it was hard to get anything coming out. So here's a close-up. White on white paper looks a little dirty and crummy, but I just couldn't get it to come out. I tried on the black, I tried over colors. It wasn't really opaque. It didn't feel like white paint. So anyway, what I'm going to paint today with the acrylic markers is a Starbucks cup. I was super excited about this. I saw a lot of other artists doing lots of customized cups and like products like this, like these kind of like not super expensive products, but reusable things just to have like some interesting colors and patterns on them. So I was excited to try this out. And it always feels so neat and permanent to do something like this because you're like, well, I'm probably not going to wash this off, and that's the point, that it would last. So here I am sketching. I did first think to sketch this with a regular pencil, but that didn't rub off the same way and erase neatly, and it kind of was scrapey because the pencil that I typically draw with was a little too sharp. So instead of trying to find the right pencil, I actually just decided, let me try a white color pencil, and that was a lot creamier and smooth. And I figured as far as painting goes, if I paint over it, not really a big deal. So I think that the sketch turned out really good. And it's always at this point I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool. What if I left it? But with the paints being so watery, I referred back to my swatches and decided I was going to do this based on the colors that had the best paint consistency. So really the red color, which in real life isn't like, it's not like fire truck red. It is a different kind of red, almost a little magenta-y, I would say. So that color really worked for me because it's as close to pink as I was going to get with this set of markers. And by just picking one color that worked really well. My only concern then was not running out of paint. So, have you guys ever painted or used any particular acrylic markers or pens or other kind of paint pens? Any like brands you like? I know Sharpie makes some. I think I've used like one, but I didn't really have much to compare this to. And at the time, um, Posca pens were kind of what I was seeing was the trend to do this with. But I didn't have any of them. I do have one now after the fact, which I haven't even used. So I have nothing to compare this to. So if I'm complaining, I don't know if this is how they are or if they aren't this way and these are just cheapy and bad. Obviously, some of them were just bad though. So after doing one coat, I did do 2 coats just to make sure that it had pretty good coverage, and I let it dry really, really good because as I was working, I was definitely getting it on my fingers as I was moving the cup, and I didn't want to smudge it all up. So now, thankfully, the other paint marker that worked really well was the black one, which is great because if you've been following me for any length of time, I like a nice outline on everything. So I was happy that the black worked well because if not, it was kind of like hard to decide on what was going to be my outline color or how I was going to add any definition to this at all. So where if I had other colors, I might go into this with like a darker red or just, a lighter color for like a highlight or different shades. You're really limited with with the colors that this kit or set gives you, but then just limit it because like half of them didn't really work really well. So the outline I think came out great. I think it really helped pull some of the, I don't know, splotchier parts together. It kind of made it seem like not so, I don't know, streaky. So that's the coat and the outline. And I did let this dry thoroughly too. So there's a lot of time in between each take of this just because I really didn't want to smear it all up and have to try to fix or go over anything. And I think I probably used up almost all the paint in that red paint marker. So if you're looking for paint markers that will last you a while, yeah, I don't think these are it. And if you're looking for colors that will all work, this is still not it. So going back in for the detail, wasn't bad. Like the tips of these markers are all a round, hard, fibrous tip. It kind of reminds me of the Sharpie paint marker. I don't know what they're made of, but they're just a scratchy kind of material and they don't give and it's not tapered. So you can't really get a lot of line variance with it. But even with that, it really wasn't too bad. It went on fine. I was able to, just adjust my own pressure. So I was able to get enough variance that it looked like what I wanted it to look like. So I was pretty pleased with it. And at this point, I'm kind of getting excited because I'm like, oh, this is going to be so fun to use because it looks so cool already. So again, another long drying session in between and not so bad. And this is when I decided to also go in and add the bottom part. So here I'm finishing up some of the details on the opposite side because I didn't want to hold one side and then smear the other side. But looking at the bottom, you can kind of see how I've over colored a few spots at the bottom of the cup because the bottom of the cup kind of has like a break, like a band. So I didn't want to draw into it because it would be too hard to keep the consistency. So here's where I'm like, all right, we're just going to go into the bottom after this and figure something out. So still adding some details, and I thought, well, what if I did the bottom a totally different color? And I did refer back to my swatches, and off camera I messed with a few of the markers while things were drying, and they were just so watery and clear that I knew they weren't gonna work. So maybe these would be okay on paper, like after they got going, like if you worked them with a brush or something, but just not doing it for this. The colors that worked the best were the red and the black, and I think the blue was alright. But so I just decided on black for the bottom. Since the black was working, why not? So I decided I would go back and try the white for the highlights. And I just did dots because anytime I tried to smear right with it, like that, you can see it just didn't, it just was like milky and like not good milk, like skim milk. And so it was just kind of like not exciting. But all in all, I think the dots looked really good. The little dot highlights turned out well. And everything else I think turned out pretty good. So I was happy with the end result. Just definitely these markers are, I mean, if you need it, like, I don't even want to say if you need it something, they're just not worth it. So even if you need paint markers for some kind of project or event or something you got to do, just get good ones, because this was like there was no way of knowing if they were going to work and what colors were going to work. So you were limited no matter what. So there's the finished piece. I totally loved it. I thought it was great. And then it was just like, well, how long will this last? And surprisingly, I think I used it for probably like a few months before it chipped a little bit. And then even at that point when it chipped, it wasn't so bad. Like when it started to chip, it was still pretty much there and looked good. And then after a while, it actually cracked. And that's what happened. And that's why I couldn't use it anymore. So it was more the cup's fault than the paint job. So anyway, thanks for watching. And like, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe.